Crimson Clad.
That's right, with me. Hey yo. So welcome. It is really quiet. I am hoping that everybody finds us. I'm hoping people that jump in. I'm praying that everything is working. Ron says I'm over on the big speakers, so that suggests to me that mayhaps the radio is working tonight. Yes, maybe. Kwa is here. Please jump in and bring your friends. My name is Crimson Clad, and this is Fullforce Radio. Now, here's the deal. Tonight, we have to evangelize a little bit. And I have to say, I don't know if it's just that everybody's used to MSP waves being a little fitzy, but there ain't nobody in the Discord, so that's sad. Our fabulous little viewer counter down below, or not our counter, but our little viewer shower down below will be empty, and that's fine. We don't have to have featured listeners. I'm not worried about it, because I do see more and more of you are hopping in over on the other streams. So let's get this out of the way. My name is Crimson Clad, and every Thursday night, Friday morning, whatever time it is for you right now, I do a little show called Fullforce Radio, and it's heavy metal, and it's hard rock, and it's Sass, and it's a whole lot of fun, and it's kind of ridiculous. It's a good thing, friends. So here's the deal. It goes out to wherever it is that you like to consume streams, and that is great. So you can check us out on Trovo, Theta, and Trovo, Theta, and Vim are the three that I would encourage you to go to, or you can go straight to mspwaves.com and get the source straight from the radio. So whatever makes you happy, friends. I see more of you are jumping in. No problemo. So tonight is a dorky night again. You know, I keep saying, "Oh, I'm gonna turn the nerd down a little bit. I'm gonna fix the dork a little bit," but I can't because I am the dork and the dork is me. And trying to fix those things is impossible. Impossible. Now, there is one thing that we have to do. I saw Corbin popped in and he said, Twitch is working. Twitch is on. I almost forgot about it. So yes, here's the deal. Things have changed just slightly. Please remember, I am officially now streaming to Crimson Clad. So, Clay, I tried to DM you today on Twitch and I couldn't. And I hope and I pray and I DM'd as many people as I could, but I am hoping that some of you will find us. So, yes, the switch has happened. I am hoping that everybody has moved over to just at Crimson Clad. You know, here's the deal. I had to consolidate my branding. For a lot of people, they were trying to find me out and about in their internet travels. And unfortunately, in that, it basically meant that not all my names were the same. And I camped myself on Twitch like a twit. I camped myself. So here is the deal. We've got things happening, and hopefully everything looks good. I can see the chat is connected. I can see that the YouTube is connected. I can see that Vim TV is working. I can see Theta TV is there. And Carsos, hey man, thanks for the follow. So we've got lots of cool stuff going on. And I'm totally stoked for tonight's playlist. So here's the deal. I have some fun stuff for you. Now, you guys might remember, if you've been hanging out and you've been paying attention to my streams wherever, you've been listening to this radio show wherever, you might know that I do another show called Cyberbuzz Radio. Now, part of Cyberbuzz Radio is that I do this ridiculous shit, and I talk about all sorts of sci-fi topics and whatnot. But I did an episode not too long ago that essentially was centered around Transformers. You know, big ass robots. Yeah, Transformers. And I'm not talking about the Michael Bay shit show that has become the franchise for everybody who's, you know, new. But I'm talking about the 80s toy extravaganza. And so we did this episode on Cyberbuzz Radio that was all inspired by the Transformers. And I played something off the Transformers soundtrack that was very synthy and, you know, this perfect fit with that radio show. And I was letting people know that it's been the 30-year anniversary of the animated Transformers, TV show, of the animated movie, I think is 1985 or whatever. But so there's a 30-year anniversary. That got us all started. Well, I was watching some more of the episodes last night because they're all free on Hasbro Pulse now. Because if you're like me and you curl up at the end of the night and you just want some mindless, nostalgic fun, yeah, sure, I'm going to watch a couple episodes of the old animated Transformers. And I ended up down that rabbit hole, and I started watching the animated movie again. That movie is actually really great. Hey! Oh my goodness, it's our good buddy Groff, which is much better than Grope. Hey, my man, hello, hello, hello. I've actually got all of my chats popped out tonight, so I should be, hopefully, seeing everyone that I need to see, talking to everybody that I need to talk, although it looks like that's messed up. But yes, so I was watching this movie, and I was listening to the soundtrack, and I was like, my God, the original animated Transformers soundtrack is metal as hell. It really, really is. And so as I was listening to the intro track, I'm like, this rips. This is so good. There's no way that this can just be a one-off for this movie. And so, of course, being the Crimson Clad that I am, I started doing a deep dive into the bands that produced music for the Transformers soundtrack. Because of course I did. And it turns out, yeah, there is some incredible history, some incredible pedigree. So tonight's playlist is indeed completely and totally shaped around the idea of essentially the Transformers. That's it, man. The animated movie, the dorky Transformers, but all heavy metal. And I'm so stoked to play this music for you because the playlist is a banger. I'm so excited. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run around. I'm going to double check all of the streams while my first tracks and whatnot are playing. But I figured I'd give you a little bit of history on this. Now, some of you guys are going to care. Some of you guys are not going to care. But you're here. I've got you. You're mine. And so be it. That's just how it's going to be. You can always just hang up, or the equivalent of hang up with live stream. But I promise if you stick around, there's a lot of great music for you. So here's the deal. I am going to play the original sort of theme song. And this is one that, it doesn't matter what time frame you came from. It doesn't matter what your experience with these toys. Let's be realistic. Transformers was a part of this wave in the mid-'80s where toy companies realized, hey man, how do we sell action figures? And we always want to say that it's like, oh no, it was this beloved property first, and then they sold out and they made all the merchandise. Nah. G.I. Joe, He-Man, She-Ra, the Transformers, all this formative stuff from, the millennial age was literally created to sell toys. And the Transformers are no exception. And this is always quite funny. And it depends. You may remember this or you may not. We'll take a peek. But so the main theme was we're going to sell some toys. And the Transformers came to be not because there was somebody who was like, okay, we're going to get these robots and we're going to have this whole plan. No, they basically ran around between a bunch of Japanese toy companies, toy properties, things that were already happening in Japan, which was a number of different, I don't know what you want to call it, intellectual property that was already like transforming things. There was a camera in one set, there were cars in another set, and there were, and there were probably 2 or 3 different properties that they took these things from and they said, what can we buy the rights to? We're going to buy these things. We're going to mass produce them. We're going to sell them. And then we're going to make a cartoon about them to sell more of them. That's literally how the Transformers came to be. And in fact, when the first sort of Transformers commercial for the toys went out, and there was this sick animation, hey Troy, this animation of all these, transforming robots flying through the air, shooting each other with lasers and shit. The show didn't exist. Nothing existed. The very first Transformers animation was literally part of a commercial. So why the hell does this have anything to do with heavy metal? Why the hell would anybody or anyone care about this? And why the hell are we doing this on Fullforce Radio? And the why of it is delightful, let me tell you. So I'm actually going to start the show. I'm going to go do a tweet. I'm going to I'm going to get everything going. I'm going to remind people that Fullforce Radio is here. If you are here, if you're just wandering in, if you're just starting to hang out with us, please feel free to chat, feel free to heckle, do what you want to do. And if you are listening and you have not yet, please, please, please head over to the new Twitch and follow there, because the old Twitch is gone, it's dead, it's sad. You don't want to be sad. You want to be happy and you want to hang out with me. So Twitch TV /@crimsonclad. If you haven't followed there, please do me a huge favor and do that now. And that way we can stay connected and I could play you a lot more big ass robot metal. Okay, so Young Red Eyes. Hey man, happy. Hello. Thanks for coming. We're doing Transformers metal tonight, my man. So I hope you like metal. And if not, I hope you like big ass robots. And if not, I hope that you like watching me make fun of myself just long enough to stick around. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start the show with the actual classic Transformers theme song. And this is the one that even if you never played with the toys /action figures, if you never really cared about it, if you were too old or too young, if this wasn't your thing, there is that theme song and everybody knows it, right? The Transformers one, Robots in Disguise. Yeah, that one. That's quintessentially Transformers. And there is this heavy metal version of that on the soundtrack, the official soundtrack from the movie, whatever it is, 1985, 1986. And I remember like the first time that I watched that movie, obviously years after it came out. And I was like, this is so cool. There are robots, there are lasers. Whoa, these guitars are blowing my mind. I wasn't quite old enough yet to really appreciate the nuances of metal, but I knew a good thing when I heard it. And every time I go back to this, I'm like, this song rips. Absolutely fucking rips. So we're going to start with that, and then I'm going to break down a bunch of stuff. Believe it or not, there's a huge theme here tonight. A bunch of the musicians that were in some of the bands that are on this soundtrack, the Transformers soundtrack, are actually members of new wave of British heavy metal bands, a number of older bands that I thought I would pull in. We'd explore some older thrash and new wave British heavy metal. NWOBHM. We'll explore some of those. We'll talk about some of the connections, how some of the artists cut their teeth in these early bands, moved on to greater pedigree, more music. And then also, I've got some space, robot, cyborg themed metal as well through the course of the night, including like some very gentle, some very gentle connections. Did you Transformer? You didn't. That's Team Fortress. But that's okay. If you're not a Transformers kid, that doesn't mean you can't have fun tonight. Loud music, heavy metal, and some nerdery. Let's fucking hang out. Let's have a good time. And let's play the Transformers theme song. Things I never thought I would get to say on this show. But I am, and I did, and I will, and it's fucking magical, isn't it? It's the best. All right, so here we go. We're going to start with this, and it is a band called Lion. We'll talk more about that after. First track of the night, the actual Transformers theme song from the Transformers animated movie. My name is Crimson Clad. Big ass robots tonight. That's what we're talking about. And if you weren't a Transformers kid, we could talk about things that were formative for you too, okay? Big ass robots of all types. All robots are welcome here. Humans too, I guess.
Something evil's won.
Let's pause this. I'm with Corbin. Do you guys remember that theme being that heavy? So I'm listening last night. I'm watching this movie. And I have to have some shout outs here before we continue on. Johnny has joined us. Johnny's 69, which is, you're welcome anyways. Having a good time over there. Anarchist, of course, the Theta extraordinaire. And yes, all of our new friends hopping around all over the place. Yeah, you guys do remember this. That's good. And I will say, the only thing is, please remember, oh, hey, what up? Lax is over on the YouTube. So, the only thing to remember is super sad, but Twitch alerts and Theta alerts don't show up on the overlay tonight. I haven't quite gotten that finished because of part of the new setup. So that really sucks because people that are following, like I see a bunch of you all over the place, like cool ass Johnny and cool ass Carsos, don't get an alert tonight, and I'm sorry for that. But you get a shout out and you get a whole lot of heavy metal music about big ass robots. So there you go. Here is a gentle reminder that dudes, that shit was heavy. Patient Zero, I love that. The Constructicon, Patient Zero has dropped a gif in chat of the Constructicon with his like penis crane, because we're adults here. We're adults here, of course. So yeah, that was a band called Lion, and they did this opening track that just ripped your face off, and you're like, this is a little kid's movie about, robots. How badass could this possibly be? And then you hear that and you're like, those solos shred. What is up? Well, here's the deal. That band, Lion, is actually made up a bunch of different band members who came together in like 83 or 84. And it's kind of wild because they were made up of a group of metal musicians who had crazy pedigree. So there was a band called Titan, which was part of the new wave of British heavy metal. Their vocalist came along. You guys might know a band called Lone Star. Their guitarist came over from Great Britain and they came in. And the drummer, I cannot remember his name, he actually was in Steeler alongside Yngwie Malmsteen. So, I mean, the reality is these are musicians who had come from a ton of other bands that were already making a splash, that were already some of the up-and-coming, rising heavy metal musicians out there. And all of a sudden, They were like, Transformers were always awesome. Yes, thank you. Red Eyes, I get it. I feel like you're going to fit in just fine here. Giant alien robots and big fights. What more could you ask for? And yeah, as a kid, that was it. That's what you wanted. You wanted to see a big-ass robot rock up and start blowing up other big-ass robots. And that's it, man. They're flying through space. So, that theme song kind of laid the foundation for how hardcore this movie was going to be. You had this... hey. And yes, a kid's movie. Yes, we'll do it metal. Now, you know what? This is a great point. Thanks for pointing this out, Marco. Here's a great thing. Were the 80s more lenient? Was everything in the 80s metal? Were movies made in the 80s less sort of concerned about their image? Have you even played music yet, Crim? Yes, of course I have. It's only the entire song that this whole fucking playlist is based on. But sure, listeners, sure. I haven't played any music yet. You fucks. All right, live radio. This is how it goes. Giant robot aliens, animals, dinosaurs. Yes, of course. Now, it's quite funny because Lax is bringing this up. Yeah, there were a number of different types of Transformers. We could talk a little bit about that as the show goes on if you guys want. But part of that was, what would make a cool toy? I know, let's make some dinosaurs. Because we took this one guy and he was a camera. And then also there's like 3 guns. Those guys are cool. We got to keep the guns. Also, kids like cars, right? Planes. Everybody likes a dump truck. Let's make a dump truck. And from there on out, that's literally how the entire sort of, the entire movie and the entire framework for Transformers came about. What would make a cool toy? Let's do that. Whoa! 80s in a nutshell. So here you go. You have this movie that came out and a bunch of these kids that were, sort of gently immersed in the lore from the TV show. Okay, and then you make this animated movie and the theme song comes out and it just absolutely tears the face off these little kids in the theater. And so you like the one that turned into a fighter jet. There are a lot of those because I don't know how far I want to go into my Transformers knowledge live on air. I don't know that I want this to be like solidly cemented forever, that I am the queen of the losers. But at the same time, yeah, Starscream is Megatron's right-hand man. But yes, he was a jet. There were quite a few jets, actually. And all of the Decepticons could fly and none of the Autobots could. I don't know why that was. Racism or whatever. I'm not sure. But if you actually do go through the lore, there are reasons for that. And we're not going to go through the lore. We're here to play heavy metal. I swear to God, we're not going to only talk about robots tonight. But the possibility is there. All right, so here's the deal. This band was made up of a bunch of other sort of really fabulous new wave of British heavy metal bands that were all sort of coalescing around that time, that were all trading members back and forth. And so a lot of what's going to happen tonight is it's going to be sort of where I'm also a fan of Reboot. I sure was. I'm from Vancouver, and Reboot was produced here in Vancouver, so it was a very popular show where I was from. Everybody knew somebody who was working on Reboot. Same sort of idea, same sort of love of sort of ridiculous and nerdy aspects. The little cassette tape could fly. Yes, because he was a Decepticon. You're talking about the cassette tape because Soundwave, and then his cassette tapes, he had like Hound and who else did he have? Ravage. Anyways, doesn't matter. Why could only one faction fly? I'll tell you in a minute, Ron. I don't want to drive away all the new people that I see are streaming in. Keep coming, friends. I have heavy metal for you. Lion. Heavy metal soundtrack, very cool. So that band, as I said, came from a bunch of other new wave of British heavy metal bands. So basically, Lion had their vocalist come from a band called Titan. Now, Titan was a band that was formed in Britain, and it was just right at the height, just the top of the new wave of British heavy metal. Now, for a lot of people, new wave of British heavy metal is sort of Iron Maiden and, you know, the bands of that era. That's what you're familiar with. That's what you're probably kind of think of. But there were a ton of new wave of British heavy metal bands, and they were a little incestuous in a lot of ways. So Titan actually came by an entire chunk of Angel Witch, who I've also played for you on this show. An entire chunk of Angel Witch, basically the drummer and the bassist, I guess the rhythm section, picked up and they were like, fuck you, I'm going to make a new band with like hookers and blackjack or whatever the meme is. So they picked up and they made Titan. So for the next portion of the playlist, I'm actually going to play something from Titan and I'm going to play something from Angel Witch, because both of these bands were really, they were sort of up and coming in that new wave of British heavy metal scene, but they also were pulling in some different kinds of sounds. Angel Witch, you also had the starts of some thrash. You had a lot of fun experimenting in these two albums. And so a bunch of the members that ended up as part of this Lion band that created or performed this super heavy metal Transformers theme song were from these bands, Titan and Angel Witch. And I'm going to play both for you. And so I'm going to try and keep an eye on chat. I'm going to try and make sure everything, Crim isn't a gamer. Yes, she absolutely is. So if you remember, there's a Transformers game for PS2. That's how you got introduced before watching the show. Oh, cool. You know, I think that is pretty viable. So, you know, Red Eyes is saying, hey, you know, I didn't necessarily watch the show as a kid, but I also wasn't introduced to the franchise by these stupid fucking Michael Bay movies. There was a time period in between where everything was spin-off TV shows, you know, comics and toys. And there were some cool ass toys. Hey, David, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us. Johnny's never seen any Transformers at all. That's sad. That's sad. Well, that's okay. You don't have to see them. You're going to hear them tonight. And by hear them, I mean you've literally heard probably the only track from the soundtrack, but everything else is about robots. So it's fine. You'll get the essence of Transformers. I'm going to bring you the heavy metal essence of Transformers. Dr. Rekdem is now following. Hey man, welcome. I hope you have some fun tonight. So here's the deal. My name is Crimson Clad. I do this weird thing that's kind of like a live stream, kind of like live radio. I'm part of MSP Waves, which is a social interactive broadcasting station. And every Thursday night I play heavy metal. Sometimes it has a theme. A lot of the time it really outs me as a giant dork. We hang out together, we listen to great tracks, and we have a whole lot of fun. So, told you guys I'm going to play a track by Titan. The lead singer that you heard in that first Transformers theme song, also the singer from this band. This is a great, great album. It is called Rough Justice, which is very rude, but that's fine. That's right, cool-ass action figures. My bad, we don't call them toys. Now that we're older and more discerning and our interactions with Transformers are a little different, it's no longer toys, but they're posable action figures. But yeah, I'm going to play something off this album called Rough Justice. I think that goes along with the cool ass toys, depending on how you hyphenate that sentence. My name is Crimson Clad. This is Fullforce Radio. Big ass robots. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to call the playlist, because why not? Big ass robots. I'm going to play a track for you called The Watcher. Here you go. Yeah.
Feel the silent eyes of truth on our ever-spinning wheel. He can see right through your thoughts to the part of you that's real. Can you feel the watcher's eyes on you? No place to run if your time is due. Save your tears from the light of day. The silent one will prey on your dreams and fantasies, desecrating all your schemes. change your ways, recall the wasted days before the tear-filled eyes of the watcher. Call before the final curtain falls. Time to hesitate or pause. All the people are now lost in darkness. Too late to change your ways at all. The wasted days before the tear-filled eyes of the watcher.
Yes, there you go. So that is Old Titan, and they only released 2 albums, and they ended up drifting apart, and they never ended up really going for it. And it's quite funny because now, as people are looking back on Titan's, work, everybody's like, holy shit, this was good stuff. Sim Girl, shout out. Hey, what's up? It's so cool to see you. We are celebrating Transformers tonight. We've gone full nerd ahead, and my entire heavy metal playlist is based on big ass robots. And I also didn't give a shout out to SL Hines, who's following now too, and has all the best emojis. Can I just say, I want everybody to have a crab rave emoji in my chat. Dun, 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 dun. I keep promising that I'll do that on Beat Saber on stream one day, but it hasn't happened yet, and it probably never will. But you never know. I could be persuaded. But that night is not this night. Tonight is big ass robots. And so essentially it was, I have been watching that GIF is going to come up all night. Everybody's just got the Constructicon penis GIF, and that's just never going to go away. And that's fine. Don't ever change. Stay golden. Stay golden, community. Stay golden. And I should probably actually just put it on the screen. Do you guys want me to just put the little penis, like maybe right here, where it's just like constantly at me? Maybe that's what I'll do. Just, to really tie the theme together. But hey, there are a ton of you watching all over the place. I'm so glad to have you, and we're gonna play a lot of good music tonight. Lots of new wave of British heavy metal, and then we'll move into a little bit more tenuously related, still sci-fi themed songs, as well as songs by connections, almost 6 degrees of separation from people who were involved in the original soundtrack from 1985 or whatever the hell it was. Because, like I said, if we go back and you look, it turns out that soundtrack absolutely ripped. It goes a lot harder than I remembered. And so while I was sitting there listening to it last night and kind of going, was this movie really for children? It got me into that rabbit hole. It got me thinking. And here we are today celebrating a whole bunch of fun heavy metal and having a good time together, listening to good music and talking about big ass robots. Okay, so with all that being said, we can continue on because I mentioned that Titan was formed by a bunch of members of Angel Witch. And Angel Witch is one of those bands, I really, really like them. And I have a real soft spot for Angel Witch. And they were originally formed, they had a totally different name. They were called Lucifer originally. But, the the reality was half of the band that was Lucifer actually went off and joined up with a little gentleman named Bruce Dickinson. You may know him from such hits as Iron Maiden. But at the time, actually, a bunch of members that started off in the band that would become Angel Witch said, hell, I'm going over and I'm going to hang out with Bruce Dickinson. And we're going to make a band called Speed. And off they went. So the rest of the people who were left became Angel Witch. And so Angel Witch is now its own new band, and they were starting with that new wave of British heavy metal sound that you were expecting. Hey, thank you, Mariano. A rose for me. Cheers. Everybody's rolling out in chat. So yeah, you had this very incestuous scene in Britain where the new wave of British heavy metal, all these heavy metal hard rock kids were hanging out together. Everybody knew everybody else. The bands were crossing over all over the place. And so this sound that developed and this whole part of the subgenre that became so noticeable and obviously is very much sort of epitomized by Iron Maiden, they were all kind of happening at once. But Angel Witch had this sort of ability to kind of jump between slower songs and faster songs. And they really were probably one of the most notable early new wave British heavy metal bands. Angel Witch came out in 1980, so we have now again hit the 30-year anniversary. And the first time I ever played them on the show, Ron and everybody else was laughing because I was like, well, here's the song Angel Witch from the album Angel Witch, played by the band Angel Witch. And, that will never go away. That will always be the song that completely sort of solidifies their career. But they do have some other great tracks. And so I wanted to kind of explore some of that tonight before we moved all out of this aspect of the show and we moved into some of the other tracks that are a little less a part of the members who actually participated in making the Transformers soundtrack. So we're going to do that. I'm going to play you some Angel Witch. It's not Angel Witch from Angel Witch by Angel Witch. It is, it's Free Man by Angel Witch from Angel Witch. So I'm going to play you a track that's a little more down tempo for them. But I love it because it's got these incredibly beautiful solos. Yeah, Iron Maiden played Iron Maiden from Iron Maiden. Yeah, exactly. Totally. But we won't be doing that either. So that's what I want to do for you guys. I want to play some Angel Witch, and then when we come back, we can actually talk a little bit about, we could talk a little bit more about big ass robots, about nostalgia, about franchises that were way heavier than we remember. And in this case, at least for me, a kids TV show that was part of that gateway drug descent into heavy music. Is it silly? Yes. You know what? This show, I love doing serious deep dives. I love bringing you the most depressing and heavy and soul-crushing music. I love exploring tortured themes and whatever else. But tonight, we're going to have some fun. And every now and again, yeah, these themes are going to be so ridiculous. They're going to make no sense. But everybody's going to yell, big ass robots! And we're going to have a whole lot of fun dissecting, a bunch of artists who started out playing with Yngwie Malmsteen and Bruce Dickinson and went on to do the Transformers soundtrack and nothing else. It's a good, fun thing. My name is Crimson Clad. This is Fullforce Radio. It is heavy metal, hard rock, a whole lot of sass, and apparently, if chat is any indication, just nothing but Constructicon boner gifts, which I'm going to put on the chat because, you guys, I feel like it's the mascot of the show now. Let's do some Angel Witch. Track's called Free Man. Here you go on MSP Waves. there you go. Angel Witch, Free Man. And so up in the chat, everybody's talking about how powerful a song that is. And it's true. It would be way too easy to just pick one of the rippers, and we will. That's what tonight is about. We love our thrash metal. We love our new wave of British heavy metal. We love everything heavy and fun. But we're having a time talking about our dorky, talking about Transformers, motherfucker. Yeah. So just to catch you up, if you were kind of wondering why the hell is this chick talking about this movie from the 80s, the 30-year anniversary has just kind of come into play for the beginning of the animated series. And Hasbro Pulse, which is Hasbro, the toy company's YouTube channel, they are releasing all of the old animated series for free without commercials on YouTube. It's pretty cool. You can go back and watch a little piece of your history if it was a thing for you as a kid. If it wasn't a thing for you as a kid, then you could catch up and then you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's good mindless entertainment, and there's something, as I talked about in the Cyberbuzz radio episode, and I'll try not to repeat myself too much, is there's a lot of positivity, there's a lot of, kind of bringing out the best in humanity, lots of strong friendships, lots of, not lying, being honorable, whatever, a lot of cool shit there. Hey, I see lots of people joining us. Pig was in, Acid's in. Hang out wherever you want to hang out. I'm happy to have you. Lots of you are jumping in. Lots of new followers. And please remember, some of the places you can watch or listen or follow or get notifications or whatever is at fullforce.rocks. That's the website for this show, and you can find everything over there. So if you want to get on Vim or Theta TV and you want to earn some rewards for hanging out and watching on the stream, if you want to go over to YouTube to watch a replay, if you want to hop into Twitch, whatever, wherever you want to watch, I want to support you in that. I don't care. I don't want to drive you to any one community. I believe in you, and I come bearing big ass robots. So yes, have been watching the Transformers animated movie, and the soundtrack absolutely fucking rips. Acid's saying he's still waiting for me to play Ensued, but I play Ensued all the time. You just don't actually come to the show. So tonight you get big robots. All right, so here's the deal. I was talking a little bit about not remembering how heavy the soundtrack for the Transformers movie actually was. And so I was listening through it again, because one of the things that, if you've never seen the movie, I'll try not to spoil a 30-plus-year-old movie. I'll try not to. But there were a lot of things in it that nobody expected to happen. Nobody expected to happen, because here was this very popular kids toy franchise, and they didn't expect for it to be as murderous as it became. But the reality is, you have got, how is Transformers Full Force? Well, that's just it. I'm telling you all about it, Acid. And for anybody just joining us, everything can be metal. You just have to look hard enough. And so we've been exploring the soundtrack. We've been looking at how the band that actually made up the theme song was actually comprised of members from new wave of British heavy metal royalty. And I'm going to delve deeper into one of the other bands on the soundtrack. But where I was going with this is like, does your blog look like you have time to full force? Does my blog look like I have time to full force? I am making a supreme effort. Doing live radio is so important to me. I no longer share photography. I no longer share art. I no longer get to do a lot of stuff. I'm always behind in witnessing. I'm always behind in blockchain teaching. I'm always behind in newbie nights. But I've made a concerted effort to take each of my old live stream posts from Vim TV and turn it into a robust replay of the show. So if you go back and you look at old posts, they will slowly be turned into time capsules of these shows as we did them live. That's the hope, but you never know. All right, so here's the deal. If you start watching this movie, you start realizing that it is literally about a giant fuck-off robot that is so big that it flies through the galaxy and it eats other planets. That's incredibly metal. That's so metal. The entire Transformers movie is about a big ass robot who disguises himself as a planet, who flies through the galaxy and literally devours other planets and genocides all life on them. That's a metal album. That's a metal album in itself. Absolutely. That's a metal concept album. And so in the course of this movie, there's giant firefights, there's entire planets to getting myrtleized, all of this stuff. And there's a song called Instruments of Destruction on this soundtrack. And it is abso-fucking-lutely killer. It's killer for 1985. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this band after I play the song. But the track is called Instruments of Destruction, which, if you listen to any metal with me and you listen to any thrash or death or even gore, these are titles that you will find on, some of the hardest metal out there. And here we are. We have some more sort of new wave of British heavy metal inspired. Waffle Uncle, what up? I got a lot of fun new people hanging out and playing with us tonight, so this is cool. And Johnny has just thrown some serious shade. I imagine a giant robot would be mostly metal, yes. You fucks. All right, yes, okay. The giant robot is metal, but I meant more like flying through the universe and literally grinding up entire civilizations into a pulp to fuel yourself on a murderous rampage across the galaxy is pretty metal. So let's do it. I am gonna play something by a band called NRG, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. This is directly off the soundtrack and actually is part of when Megatron first comes in and the first kind of big battle sequence. Instruments of Destruction. Hell yeah, that's awesome. This is Fullforce Radio. My name is Crimson Clad, and yeah, we're talking about Transformers tonight. So there.
I drift above the sky. Cloudy revelations unseen by naked eyes. Fighting tools of torments will penetrate the sphere. Erupt the rock of ages, bringing final fear. Instruments of destruction. Really counts. Brave eternal darkness when you are drained of every ounce. And when the nightmare's over, the final from the storm, to dust of all creation, to ashes we transform. Instruments of destruction.
classic. It comes out of nowhere, the second half of that track. Now picture it's 1985 and you're a 6-year-old and you're hanging out in the theater and Megatron is literally beating the shit out of another robot in the background, just ah! It's fucking amazing. Hey, I saw Mr. Monk say hi. Hello. You found the new Twitch. Good man. Yes, laughing in potato. That's me, all right. So yeah, you guys are all coming to come for me tonight. You may come for me when I call for you, but here's the deal. The Transformers movie, when we were kids, actually legit, like, slammed. It absolutely slammed. So I said that I was going to explain to you about this NRG band. And so when we talk about this particular track, the frontman, he had this very James Hetfield-like sound. It was, this ridiculous metal track playing while all over the screen. I don't want to spoiler a 30-year-old children's movie, but all over the screen, robots are getting torn to shreds. A bunch of fan favorites die. There are deaths in this movie. Lasers rocketing through space. And meanwhile, there is this sort of Megadeth reminiscent track playing over the top. Just, oh! It's badass. It's absolutely badass. And so it's quite funny because, again, there was a lot of pedigree in this sort of collaboration. And what's quite funny is for the 30-year, or whatever anniversary, they released a new version of that song. And I didn't play it, but I've put it in the playlist tonight as extra listening. But these were artists who have worked with Whitesnake, Dio, Yngwie Malmsteen, Stevie Ray Vaughan, David Lee Roth. There's just a bunch of essentially early heavy metal royalty. These are the people who are putting together the songs for your stupid robot movie. Yeah, you saw that shit in theaters. Did you really? You must have been, because you must have been 5. Yeah, it was around 1985 or 1986. I am so jealous. That's fantastic. Hey, Moon City is here. She's moaning her way into the chat. Hello. And for everybody else who's just joining us, because I see a ton of you hopping up all over the Twitch, all over the YouTube, all over the trve, all over the Theta, all over the Vim, wherever you are. Hey, my name is Crimson Clad, and this is my stupid little heavy metal show. And on Thursday nights, we play metal, we talk shit, and sometimes it's really hard and really dark and really evil. And sometimes, like tonight, we talk about big-ass robots. And that's what I'm naming the show. I don't care what anybody says. Hashtag big-ass robots. That's the name of the show. I did briefly think about Transform and Rock Out, which is pretty bad. And if you're not a Transformers fan, that won't mean anything. But, Autobots transform and roll out. It's a work in progress. It's fine. All right, so here's the deal. I did want to get some actual death metal into the playlist. I wanted something hard. I wanted something heavy. I wanted to make sure that I was checking all the boxes for extreme death metal and whatnot. And so what I plan on doing is playing something by a band called Bolt Thrower. Now, you guys know, if you've been around for this show before, you guys know I love Bolt Thrower, and the internet loves Bolt Thrower, and the metal community loves Bolt Thrower. Bolt Thrower is probably, again, one of Britain's sort of bands of this time period, but instead of sort of a new wave of British heavy metal, Bolt Thrower was a band that went straight to death metal. So 1986, right in this time period. And if you've been around for Fullforce Radio a whole lot, and hopefully you have, I did an entire episode inspired by Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons. Now, Bolt Thrower is a Warhammer band. Bolt Thrower, literally all about Warhammer. And so I was thinking, well, here was another band that was sort of in the mix in Britain at this time period that I'm talking about, and all these bands, Angel Witch and Titan and, Iron Maiden, and all of these bands were starting to really ramp up through the 80s. Here was another band that saw what was happening and was like, cool, but what if we made it more murder? I like where your head's at with the fantasy and the sci-fi, but what if murder? And that's Bolt Thrower, just hard left into murder. So this is legitimately a band that writes about Warhammer 40K. Now, if you're thinking that the connection here is just a tenuous one nerd song to another nerd song, one nerd band to another nerd band, you're incorrect. Because as I said, the theme, the plot of the Transformers movie is a giant robot planet mass called Unicron is a world eater. And this robot planet is traveling through the galaxy, traveling across universes and space and time, and massacring entire planets. So like I said, it's pretty metal, honestly. Bopping around, sucking, I'll blow your planet up. Blowing up other planets, munching them up, taking energy into themselves. That's the whole plot of the movie is, holy shit, Unicron's coming and he's gonna eat us. That's bad. Bolt Thrower happens to have a song. They have many, but they happen to have a song called World Eater. So here we are. We're talking about what was happening in Britain in the late 80s. We are talking about tracks that are inspired by big-ass robots. We are talking about the Transformers movie. How could I not put some goddamn Bolt Thrower in here? So this is solely to make me happy. I want some early British extreme death metal. I want some Warhammer 40K. I want Bolt Thrower. Yeah, Unicron's a world eater. This track's a world eater. It's off an album called Realm of Chaos. My name is Crimson Clad, and tonight I'm playing you big-ass robot metal. And it's fun as hell. Let's do this.
Now I'm pushing, ignorance, ignorance.
A little bit of bolt thrower. Yes, World Eater. My name is Crim, and this is Full Force Radio, and it's about that time where we are halfway through the show where I always like to make sure that you remember exactly what's going on. And the bonus would be if I played the right track.
Full Force Radio with Crimson Clad.
That's right. So, hey, tonight is a silly little heavy metal playlist, all inspired by the Transformers movie, the animated Transformers movie. Now, does that sound particularly metal? No. Is it actually very metal? Hell yes. We're having a lot of fun tonight. We are tracing some of the roots of the new wave of British heavy metal through the late 80s and the soundtrack that was actually put together specifically. These songs were written and put together specifically for this movie and actually hold a pretty solid place in early sort of power, new wave metal of that time period. They still hold up and they're still pretty great. Now, the chat has been all over the place. I see Gabe has joined us, and it's quite funny because Acid is saying that the Transformers animated movie looks like Akira. Yeah, sure. There's definitely some crossover there. And like I say, it's beautifully, beautifully done. The late seasons of the TV show, not as high quality, but the movie is beautiful, and I highly, highly recommend you watch it. Julia says we should put Clay in the Iron Maiden. I agree. I think I should just have an Iron Maiden back there. But yes, Uncle Boner was saying that, yes, he's just realizing that I am wearing an Iron Maiden shirt, and I am, because of course, what do we say? Whatever's on my shirt ends up in the show. I always try and wear a shirt that reflects one of the bands that gets picked up in the playlist for the night. Now, I will say, this is one of my, I don't know if you can see how well loved this shirt is. This is one of my oldest metal shirts, and this is one of my most beloved, and I actually don't wear it that much anymore because you can see the print is starting to go on it. This is from the Somewhere Back in Time tour from 2008. So this shirt is 13 years old, going on 14 years old. It's still in pretty good shape. They were sold out of smalls, so it's too big, but doesn't matter. I love it so much. And so what I usually do is I actually only wear it on the anniversary of the concert, because you guys may know I take all my metal shirts out for their birthday. I know this is really lame. I don't care. So many of you guys rag on me for it. Too bad. It's a lot of fun. So whenever I have a shirt that is nearing the end of its life, rather than let it just get holy and ridiculous, I will then cherish it and bring it out once a year for a party. Because I'm ridiculous. And I recognize this and I embrace it. So I thought this might be a great point just before we move on and we actually kind of shift gears a little bit into the doom and early proto metal. What I was thinking that I would do is I would quickly touch on some topics in Crim's mailbag. And we'll do this very quickly, and I will try not to spend too much time on it. But one thing that I did want to throw out there, and it's very quick, was I got quite a bit of feedback last week that chat was not fun for parts of it towards the end. So I just want to throw this out there. I love having you guys around. You're all hilarious. And I know one of the best parts of Fullforce Radio is when chat starts talking about dicks and butts and whatever. And, you know, part of metal is to be adversarial. Part of metal is to be angry, is to be challenging, is not to be woke necessarily, which is actually not true. I mean, there's activist metal of all stripes. But the reality is there's a lot of people like, oh, well, you know, if you can't take being offended, you shouldn't like metal. And you know what? That's true. That's absolutely true. There's aggressive imagery. There's aggressive emotions. There's a lot of reasons why metal can be intimidating. But what I want to throw out here is just, I love having all of you guys. Please keep in the back of your mind, if you're going to throw something in chat, if you're going to derail chat with something that's maybe, you know, a nudie gif, or you're going to start calling some really strong names or whatever, just think in your mind, hey, if I didn't have context, how would I take this? Because some people last week were actually really, really uncomfortable and felt a little attacked. So I'm just throwing it out there. No big deal. I am super, super proud to have one of the best fucking communities going. And you guys are all really supportive of each other. You all hang out so much. Hey, Bloom Rock, thanks for joining us. And I'm super happy to have you here. So I'm just throwing this down as a gentle reminder that I don't care what you do. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what you listen to, but just do your best to be one of the positive aspects of this channel. All right, so that's it. That's it from the mailbag tonight. We will, I might dip back into it later, but I got a lot of Transformers to talk about. It's heavy metal and it's big ass robots. And I'm going to call that the name of the show tonight, and nobody can fucking stop me. So we started the show with 1980s, the actual soundtrack from the Transformers movie, and then some of the artists from the new wave of British heavy metal, thrash, and death metal that made up some of those bands and where the sound was going. So I want to actually continue into some of the doom aspects and the early funeral and the early sort of stoner metal. And so I'm going to play a couple of classics because you know what? If you've been around for the last couple weeks, everything new. Actually, to be fair, everything new in the last couple of weeks, like these shows, I've been really focusing on new music because there's been so much great new metal. But it's time for us to go back and appreciate some of the stuff that got us where we are. And where we are is, you know, an entire line of big ass fucking robots. So, gonna do that. And yes, Gabe is asking who showed their woo-woo or their hoo-ha. Well, that's children's talk, sir. Are you discussing a penis or a vagina? A gentleman's sausage or a lady garden? Whatever, but nobody did. It's actually been a while since I've had anybody drop a dick or some boobs in my chat. And that's good. That's good. Good work, everyone. Staying mostly clothed at some times. However, robots don't have genitalia, or at least not these robots. There are many other big-ass robots out there that probably do have genitalia, and if you'd like to focus on those, that's great. But I'm going to continue on And I'm going to pick up a couple of classics that feed right back into our big ass robots theme that are some of the music that was kind of simmering alongside the new wave of British heavy metal, or precursors to the new wave of British heavy metal. And I'm of course talking about bands like Deep Purple and Black Sabbath. Now, the Deep Purple track is because I have actually never on this show played it, which is kind of crazy. Now, we've talked about on this show proto metal, and we've talked about sort of these early bands that became the precursors for everything. Of course, they have more than meets the eye, remember? It's true. It's true. Anything can be a dildo if you try hard enough, and I'm sure robots have all sorts of attachments. And yeah, the Constructicon is back in chat again with his little crane arm. I stand corrected. But of course, let's continue. Let's move on and let's play some music. So I have not played Deep Purple's Space Truckin' on this show ever. And so I know a lot of you guys in the last couple weeks are so used to like new death metal, new melodeath, new thrash, like new sort of more extreme takes on metal, but sometimes it's nice to throw back and go a little retro. And so of course, Optimus Prime is a truck and the robots came from space. So that is literally, outside of the fact that Deep Purple is a part of this evolution that we've been talking about tonight, this new wave of British heavy metal and sort of these proto-metal bands and bands that kind of helped help create a path. I just want to play Deep Purple and I just want to play Space Truckin'. So I'm literally going to play Space Truckin' because Optimus Prime was a truck from outer space. Fuck you, that's why. And that's it. Fullforce Radio. I'm Crimson Clad. Fuck you, I play what I want. But I'm glad you're here. You're awesome. Big ass robots!
Well, we
There you go. Oh, Deep Purple off the classic album Machine Head. Very important proto-metal, friends. Very important proto-metal. My name is Crimson Clad, and that is one of those songs that, again, in Britain, as whether a early, thanks for the boomer metal, 100%, we're focused on the 80s, we're focused on bands that had crossover around the time of the Transformers soundtrack. Everything on tonight's playlist is, of course, inspired by big-ass robots, and that is a perfect fit. A, because I love me some proto-metal. B, because we've never played it on, it's the first time that I've played that song on this show. 5 years of heavy metal history, including proto-metal episodes. And I have played Deep Purple before. I've just never played Space Trucking. So there you are. All right. Viking Adventure is working really hard. That looks incredible, Viking Adventure. Working hard on some card edits, and you guys are all hanging around. We're talking about big-ass robots. We're talking about Transformers and how they shaped the landscape of heavy metal and how they actually raised a generation of kids who are like, holy shit, robots with lasers and guitars. Pew, 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 pew. I mean, how can you argue with that? You can't. So now that that's out of the way and we are coming up towards the end of the show, I think we're going to fit all the tracks in, but we're going to try. Yes, you love big ass. Who doesn't? Big ass, big robots, big ass, big robots, ass robots. Like, that's all the combinations, right? Is that all the permutations? You were here for a first. I am going to throw out there. So for those of you who are just joining me on this journey, and there's so many of you tonight, the follows are out of control. It's so cool to see. Thank you. And if you haven't yet, I'm going to be that annoying person that says it. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're hanging out, do the thing. Click the button. Get the notification. Come back next week. We'll play a bunch of metal. We'll have a lot of fun. Something ass robots. But what I did want to mention is last week, Viking Adventure had mentioned, and many of you have mentioned that, what the hell? I saw this bug out of the corner of my eye over on this side of my office earlier. And I was like, okay, bug, he's up there. And I just turned my head and he's over here. How did he get? Fucking bug. Fucking bug. Freaking out. If you guys see me, if I start, freaking out, then you'll know why. Unicron was right. Amazing. What an amazing username. I can't even, that is something. Unicron was right. Fantastic. All right. Eat world. Get pussy. I don't know what. I don't know any cool guy slang, but if you could find like a tagline, insert eat world into it and then be cool. Listen, let's actually try and get back on track. So where I was going with this was, it was mentioned that the Fullforce Radio master list was not complete. And it turns out that was true. So one of the things that I did last week, and I spent a ton of time on it, is I actually went through, I don't know any cool taglines. Like, I don't know any like fucking gang stuff, right? Like, I don't even know if that's a gang sign. It's just a peace sign. I don't know. I'm white. I am a white suburban woman who is being attacked by a bug and talking about ass robots. Listen, this is heavy metal, guys. Just quality entertainment here on this stream. But so I needed to go through there and fix it. And so I spent a couple of hours going through back to the very first Fullforce Radio episode from like 2017 or whatever. And there have been 163 episodes. Tonight is 164. There have been 163 episodes of Fullforce Radio. I went through, I pulled every single track that I've ever played on this show, and I added them to the Fullforce Radio list of imminent headbanging and fuckery, and I put every single track I've ever played, ever, in order on that playlist. And then I went through and I cleaned it up for anything that's been removed, because unfortunately some tracks have been removed in that time. And I cleaned up all duplicates, and I cleaned up all conflicting versions, because of course there's the 1997 remaster and the 2004 remaster and the 2020 deluxe, remixed edition. I fixed all of that. And so now the Fullforce Radio heavy metal playlist is complete and growing. It is over 170 hours long. It is insane. That is roughly 7 days of your life. If you turned on track number 1 of my playlist and you just let it roll and you went forwards in time through all of the episodes that I've ever played, Fullforce Radio, it would take you 7 days nonstop to get through it. And we aren't done there, because Fullforce Radio continues here with me. Tonight's stuff will end up on the playlist. If you want to follow that playlist, if you want to find the music from every night, if you just want to see if you can find a new band or whatever, you can go to Spotify. You can find me there. You can find the playlists. Every single episode is there. It's kind of cool. It's kind of insane. But the whole goal is that you find music that you like. You find new artists. You find new bands. You find whatever. You find Bolt Thrower! and then you're happy. And then you're happy. All right, so let's continue on. So there is, of course, another proto-metal band, another sort of father of metal, and arguably another track that I haven't played on the air. I'm not even lying to you. I have not played this on the air. And I am talking about Black Sabbath's Iron Man. Now, Iron Man, of course, is actually about a time traveler who causes Armageddon, but it is of the same era. So when we're talking about this whole time period, I actually took a shot because nobody's making me level. When we talk about this whole time period and we talk about the late 80s and we talk about the new wave of British heavy metal, here's the deal. Before the new wave of British heavy metal, we had the first wave, the proto-metal, the beginnings of doom and death and sludge and stoner and psychedelic and everything that metal is made of. And of course, I'm talking about Black Sabbath. And I'm talking about bands from the early 70s. No, I've played lots of Sabbath. I've played a ton of Sabbath, but I've never played Iron Man. And often I realize what happens for me is I usually never play like the main track that a band is known for. If there's a good chance that you've heard the band on the radio and had time to get sick of it, I'm not going to play it on my show. And that's nothing to do with nothing, but it's, a recognition that these bands have diverse and exciting and interesting back catalogs. And we can play 2 minutes to midnight for the 367th time, or we can go through everything else that Iron Maiden has to offer, or whatever. And you know what? Why not both? So tonight, given that we are talking about big ass robots and the Transformers, you know what? Let's do it. If I'm going to play Space Trucking because Optimus is a truck, then I'm going to play Iron Man because that's literally what a robot is. Oh, Lord. My name is Crim. This is Fullforce Radio. I am having a great time tonight. I hope you guys are as well. I'm sorry some things with the station aren't working as much because, like I said, our little display of listener heads is sparse tonight. But I'm looking at all of the different streams. I see a ton of you there. So many of you are chatting. A lot of you are coming and discovering the show for the first time. I appreciate you. Have more big robots. It's Iron Man Classic Black Sabbath here on Fullforce Radio.
nobody wants him. They just turn their heads. Nobody helps him. Now he has his revenge. Heavy boots of lead fills his victims full of dread, running as fast as they can. Iron Man lives
That's one of those tracks that always catches me, but I was ready for it. Hey, my name is Crimson Clad, and we're coming towards the end of Full Force Radio. Tonight has been all about big ass robots. And, you know, as hilarious as that sounds, it comes from a place of kind of getting caught back up in the anniversary of the animated Transformers TV show and the movie, and hearing the soundtrack again and realizing, holy shit, this rips. This is full of metal, and kind of going back and re-experiencing seeing that movie or that show or hearing these songs, you know, through the eyes of a young kid who's pretty impressionable, who's all like, yeah, robots and lasers. And then also hearing some really crazy high pedigree new wave of British heavy metal in this animated kids show. Fantastic. And so tonight's journey through metal has been this dorky, like mildly tenuously robot related playlist, but actually really branches out into all of the bands that had a hand in creating such a fabulous soundtrack. So with all that being said, everything is... I'm glad people are having a lot of fun. And yes, exactly. For as little as you would listen to this song, that dugga-dugga-dugga-da, it is. And I was here, you know, I was drumming for Uncle Bonehead, who said he can't do his desk drums because his wife is asleep. Now, please remember, Butt Bongo Fiesta. Robots, butt bongo fiesta. She is asleep, but if you wake her up by drumming on her ass cheeks, there is no way she can be mad at you. That's science. Robots in disguise. Trust me, I'm a doctor. I'm also a DJ, and I'm here every Thursday night playing heavy metal and talking shit. And sometimes the playlists are like tonight. They're really silly. They're a whole lot of fun. They're themed in a wacky way. And some nights they're new music. Some nights they're deep dives. Some nights they're just a celebration of everything dark and evil and heavy in metal. But Fullforce Radio is always a journey, and I'm always glad you take it with me. So thanks for being here. Butt Bongo Fiesta. So I have 3 more tracks, which is good because I only have like 20 minutes worth of time, and those 3 tracks together are just under like 15 minutes of music. So, do some math. I can't because I'm a girl and girls can't do math, yada, yada, yada. But if one of you does the math for me, you'll probably realize that we are right on time. So, one of the other things that I did want to talk about from the soundtrack, because we moved off, we played some other bands, sort of proto-metal from the same time period, British heavy metal and American heavy metal, and all of the things that were happening in the late 80s, and then of course the precursors to the early 70s and their late 70s that were the precursors to stuff like the soundtrack from this Rippin' Kids movie. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about quickly was one more band on this soundtrack. And the band that I'm actually talking about is a band called Spectre General. And before I get too far into that, I will say there were some runners up for tonight because I did think about going really like balls deep into balls deep into the robot theme. And so there were a couple of bands that I really was thinking of playing. I was thinking of playing a band called Compressor Head, which is a band of robots that plays instruments. And they were actually kind of like they're kind of like a visual arts display, but they're an animatronic robot band out of Berlin, and they have a track called Compressor Head, and it sounds a lot like Motorhead. So it's kind of like this Motorhead appreciation robot animatronic metal band. And I thought about playing them, but yeah, no. And yeah, absolutely. In the chat there, Bonehead's just discussing how that movie really was ahead of its time culturally. And yeah, it really was. It was a great movie. And while you may not love where the franchise is going, that's for sure, because the franchise is it's something. And you may not care about the toys or whatever else. There was this period in the 80s where the Transformers and this sort of animated movie were everything that was amazing and cool. So yes, Compressor Head almost made the list. Exodus almost made the list because Exodus actually has had some members that have crossed over with new wave of British heavy metal acts as well. And so there were a number of members that kind of crossed over in and out of Exodus. So I thought about playing some of them. And then the other one that didn't make the playlist, but that I thought I would mention for those of you who love these weird sort of connections that I dig up, is a band called the Proto-Men. Now, the Proto-Men are a band that literally they came onto the scene and they wrote a concept metal album about Mega Man, which was another sort of Japanese animated children's property of the time period, and of course became a bunch of video games and things like that. And so the Proto-Men wrote an actual album about the Mega Man universe, and one of the tracks is called Man vs. Machine, and really fit, and I came really close to sneaking it in tonight, but instead we're going to move on and we're going to celebrate one more band from the actual soundtrack. And so I want to play something by Spectre General. And Spectre General, I will tell you more about them afterwards, but they have a song, they have a couple songs on the album, and I've played them for you on other shows, but I am actually going to kind of dox them. They were called Spectre General on the soundtrack, but that was not the band that was actually playing. The band that was actually playing was a band called Kick Axe. And this is quite funny because it is a Canadian metal band from Saskatchewan. Now, if you're not familiar with Canadian, sort of the layout of Canada, Saskatchewan is in the middle flat part, It's hella flat. There's a whole lot of nothing. There's a lot of open space. But out of Saskatchewan came a band called Kick Axe, and they actually had a couple of really well-selling metal hard rock albums under their belt. And so, yeah, okay, I'm just watching chat. Gabe's talking about Akira. Yes, we could probably branch off into that another day, but not a great fit for tonight. Kick Axe already had a couple of metal albums under their belt, and so here was this movie that came out to these rockers from Canada and said, hey, we want you on the soundtrack. But you know what? Even though the movie is literally about a planet genociding other planets and giant fuck-off robots lasering each other to death and fighting over Earth and massacring humans, even though Kick Axe is, it's kind of a rude name. We don't necessarily want to put that on the soundtrack. And so, on the actual Transformers soundtrack, you will see a band called Spectre General. Band doesn't exist. It's literally just a renamed Kick Axe. Now, Kick Axe, one of my very first shows, and in fact, probably the very first show, I played a cover of The Chain, a Fleetwood Mac song, and it's such a good cover. It rips. It is a great cover. However, I'm going to play you one of my favorite tracks off of an album called Rock the World, and it is the album that Chain cover came off of, so it's quite funny. I started my metal journey way back 5 years ago or whatever, 164 episodes ago, with a Kick Axe track. And here we are tonight again. I am going to play you a track called The Dark Crusade. It's the perfect description of my journey here on Fullforce Radio. I'm knocking shit over on my desk. I am on a dark crusade. I'm here to bring you some new music, some fun lore. I'm going to get you pumped up about metal tracks, whether they're new, they're old, they're cheesy, they're awesome, whether there are big ass robots or just me, crimson clad. There's always going to be great music on Fullforce Radio.
Out to the east, a terror unleashed, the darkest of beasts.
There you go. That is a Canadian band called Kick Axe, and they were a mainstream metal band out of Regina, Saskatchewan. Tons of people are just joining us, and a big shout out to a bunch of new followers. Tonight has been wild. The train is rolling all night long. Kasuha, hello. Sepsin is back with us. Everybody is kicking it. So yeah, you know, tonight is a little less heavy, and it's fine. That's okay. There are times where that's appropriate. But these tracks all have one thing in common, and that is this thread of just epic guitar work, this awesome metal like attitude that just creeps through in the guitars. So Kick Axe, because I am going to run out of time here, Kick Axe basically recorded a bunch of songs. They started touring around. They did very well. They went quite mainstream for metal at the time. And then one of their members got sick of touring and he decided to leave the band. The band went on, and of course then they were asked to record tracks for the Transformers soundtrack, which is why they're on tonight's show. And then, you know, quite hilarious, Kick Axe, even though the movie is about giant planet-eating robots and literal actual genocide and, you know, a centuries-long horrific war spanning the galaxy, no big deal. Kick Axe is a rude name because it sounds like kick ass. So they credited them as Spectre General on the soundtrack. Crazy, am I right? So that's one of my favorite tracks of theirs. That is called Dark Crusade. I'm going to try to stick two more tracks in your ear. I'm going to run out of time, but gosh darn it, that's okay. So I have two more. Now the reality is I could keep kind of going on that British heavy metal track. I could keep going on these sort of early 80s, late 70s things, but I actually do want to kind of pull in at least one other thing. And I spent a lot of time tonight thinking about all of the fantastic sci-fi concept albums I know, and there are so many, and a lot of them are more extreme metal, death metal, tech death, and you know, there was industrial metal, there's a lot. So I was thinking about playing some Hypocrisy or Blood Incantation, or you know, Cynic, Tomb Mold even actually have a really cool sci-fi concept album. There are a bunch of albums, tons off the top. Like, I mean, I literally played you guys like rocketing off to find a whole new homeworld metal on one of the space episodes. So there are tons of you know, sort of contemporary and newer artists that would fit, but I didn't. I controlled myself a little bit, and I tried to kind of stay in this area, but I did have to branch out a little bit. So my second to last song tonight, penultimate track of the night, is actually, yes, exactly, is actually Fear Factory. Now, Fear Factory were special. In the middle of the 90s, Fear Factory was producing music that was almost robotic in itself. And so Inspector Ladybits. That is an amazing metal name, and I'm stealing it. Patent pending. So Fear Factory put out an album called Demanufacture, and then they actually had a whole trilogy, Manufacture, Demanufacture, and Remanufacture. But Demanufacture, arguably one of the more important industrial albums, and Fear Factory's been very open that these albums are heavily inspired by things like Terminator, and the idea of robots or fighting against machines or machine-controlled governments, and so this was in the mid-90s, this was in 1995, but this particular track specifically, it's called Replica. Typos don't matter, we don't mind, don't worry about it, Mariano. Typos in chat, that's par for the course. Robots, not robots, robots. Demanufacture was this industrial album that when it came out, it really blew a lot of minds, and a lot of the reviews from the time period were like, holy shit, listen to these blast beats, like these drums, you know, they're triggered, they're fast, they're intense, they're crazy, but there's melody here, but there's a death metal sound here, but it's industrial. You know, it was really hard to put demanufacture in a box. And that made it really attractive to a lot of people who were looking for something different. So, I mean, this isn't a perfect fit for tonight, but arguably this entire theme of this album and a lot of the work that Fear Factory was doing at the time is a perfect fit for the idea of a struggle against robots or with robots or whatever else. And, you know, I really like this track and I'm going to play it for you guys. That's it. Fuck you. That's why. Because fuck you. I love you. So I'm not going to play what you want. I'm going to play what I want and you're going to like it. Replica by Fear Factory. This is the penultimate track of the night. We will come back and we will have one more before the end of the show. However, if you are listening on the station at MSP Waves, it is going to cut off. If you're one of the many people who is watching from a stream, and shout out to YouTube, Twitch, Theta, Trovo, Vim. Shout out to all of you. Then the party will keep on and you'll get the last track. If you haven't, it's the last reminder tonight. Please like or follow or subscribe or whatever, wherever you are, because that way you can come back next week and we can keep the party going. And I suspect there will be some tech death next week and a lot of great new tracks. So, a little bit of everything. My name is Crimson Cloud. This is Fullforce Radio. Corbin is exactly right. Your favorite reason to listen to something new? Because fuck you. That's why.
No
that for some frickin' blast beats. My friends, we have come right to the end of Fullforce Radio. I hope you're having a fabulous time tonight. Man, that track is sick. Yes, they did put out a new album this year, Sepsin. Good eye. However, that album, Demanufacture, is honestly, it's considered much like quite a few of the albums on this playlist. That Bolt Thrower album, that Angel Witch album, Black Sabbath's Paranoid, Deep Purple's Machine Head. A bunch of the albums tonight were considered quite legendary and big milestones in the way that metal and rock and roll were evolving. And that album, even if that's not 100% your vibe, if you're not sure that slightly industrial edge, that slight grip of death and those like incredible machine gun fire blast beats, and then this sort of melodic voice that's a little bit like grunge typo and hefty growling that you were only really getting in sort of like death and black metal. That album is really worth a listen. If you're looking for something new and you kind of want to expand your palette, or you want to get a little bit more of a feel for some of the metal that really shaped the 90s and some of the more landmark albums that are out there, Demanufactured by Fear Factory, that is a big one. And it's a great album. It's worth your time. Give it a shot. Okay, so we are now to the very last bit of the show. I have one more request for you guys. Anybody that's listening who happens to have a Twitter account, I have moved, or I'm not moved, but I'm making a concerted effort to populate the Fullforce Radio Twitter account. And one of the things that I'm doing that I got some feedback this week that was appreciated and liked is every single day I'm sharing just a random album that I listen to. And that's every single day. I make a little graphic. I pick out a song from the album. I highlight the album from way back when to brand new, one every single day. And of course I'm going to share, show stuff there as well. But if you do love Fullforce Radio and you don't really care about me or anything else, you may enjoy that account. And of course it'll be a reminder for when shows go live and everything else like that. So with that being said, we've come to the last track of the night, and Big Ass Robots. I'm pretty sure you made a Twitter account. Well, now there's another Twitter account. You made a Twitter account to follow only 2 Twitter accounts, and they're both me. And you know what? I don't take that for granted. Oh, and speaking of taking it for granted, if you saw my face during that last, if you saw me get really excited there during that last track, anonymous donation came through, and that was super cool of you. And of course, tonight, the alerts aren't hooked up, so it didn't come across the screen. I don't know who you are, but a huge thank you. It is really cool and really meaningful when people send little bits of appreciation my way. Your attention span is enough. Your haggling and heckling and hatred is enough. But every now and again, somebody shoots me some cash, and it's super cool. It's super cool, and it really jazzes me up because it makes me know that this is working for you and this is a thing that you enjoy. So huge thank you. You're an asshole and you didn't put your name, and now I can't embarrass you live on air. So thank you anyways. Okay, so last track of the night, the arguably best big-ass robot of the new wave of British heavy metal. Yes, actually on my shirt, there he is, Eddie, Somewhere in Time Eddie, with his cyborg eye and laser guns and fucking mech suit. This Eddie is the best big-ass robot of all time. Like, let's be realistic, right? So, with that being said, yeah, the last track is a classic from Iron Maiden. I haven't played it in a while, but I've played most of their discography. I'm actually running out of Iron Maiden songs to play, which is insane because their back catalog is huge. But I'm going to play you a track called Wasted Years, Somewhere Back in Time, Somewhere Back in Time being the tour, Somewhere in Time being a fantastic Iron Maiden album. And all of us, being here, celebrating each other, hanging out, living our very best life, traveling on far and wide, too much time on my hands. I got you on my mind. Hell. It's fantastic. Let's do it. One last track from Iron Maiden. We're going to up the irons to finish off Fullforce Radio tonight. My name is Crimson Clad. I hope you come back next week. But if nothing else, turn this one up and sing along. It's Wasted Years on MSP Waves. Yeah, Wasted Years. What a fantastic track to finish it up on. And yes, the only connection to tonight's playlist is a big ass robot. I love that you guys have been hanging out with me tonight. I'm so glad you were here. I hope you had so much fun. This has been another episode of Fullforce Radio. It's live radio, it's live streaming, it's live community, it's, well, I was going to say it's live heavy metal. It's not that, but it's damn close. It's heavy metal, it's hard rock, it's Sass, and every Thursday or Friday or whatever, I am here live playing music for you, hanging out, chatting, having a great fucking time. I am stoked. Tonight was fun. The entire playlist was based on Transformers, and it was all based around the fact that I went back to watch the original animated movie, went through the soundtrack and thought, holy shit, this absolutely rips. And that rabbit hole put together a whole playlist about big ass robots. I hope you had a great time. I got nothing more to say. I got nothing more to give you. But next week, A++. And in about 10 minutes, if you head on over to the Spotify, I will make this playlist public and you can grab all your favorite tracks. I will see you guys next week. Have a fabulous, fabulous time. Maybe I'll see you for Cyberbuzz Radio. But if not, I expect you back here. Go to fullforce.rocks and you'll get a countdown.